and welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I'm your host, Jay.
I'm co-host Nessa.
And I'm co-host Drew.
Co-host.
Co-host.
Oh my gosh, before we start, I want to say happy Diwali for all those who celebrate. That's because it's today.
Yes.
Okay, that's all. Woo, round of applause.
And we have another celebration.
Drew, go ahead.
Yeah, I am celebrating. Today is exactly my 1 year since I started my medical portion of my transition. I've been socially transitioning since like 2019. So excited. I'm excited. Now I'm getting to that weird half of like the long voice drop. So like every 5 sentences, my voice like cracks and goes out. And that's an exciting time. But yeah, I'm stoked. It's been of course, like, you know, the stuff going on here in the state of Florida, and then like the culture wars has been anxiety inducing. But as far as like a personal level, I can't say that I've ever really truly looked at myself in the mirror every day and been like, oh, that's me. You know, like it's pretty cool to be able to look into the mirror and recognize yourself for the first time after 30 years of not being able to do it. So I'm stoked. I'm gonna go get a big cookie after the podcast.
Maybe get some ice cream too.
Oh, absolutely. Canucks playing the Habs tonight. I need some good snacks to celebrate. Hopefully, a Canucks dub would be a good one today too.
Celebratory ice cream or eating my feelings ice cream, depending if they win or not.
The outcome of that game will determine, like, is this like a good celebratory dish, or is this like a, oh man.
Exactly.
Well, congratulations. Love to hear it. Always great
Thanks,
to see
guys.
somebody, you know, living their best life in their truest selves and getting access to gender affirming care. Is what we are
Big
fighting
one.
for.
Absolutely. And well, I just had something, but I just forgot it that fast. That's how like excited I am about all of this. I'll get back to it. I'll come back to it. It was a good thought, and then it left me. I'm excited, you know. So it finally feels good to be able to be myself in every avenue of life. So that's pretty cool.
For sure. Love it. So we're going to hop into just, you know, some quick news on the Hockey Hall of Fame inductees. Our very own Dan Rusanowski, the audio voice of the Sharks, who has been here since the very beginning. He got invited to go to Toronto, get his plaque on the wall amongst the many others. And what a cool moment. What a cool moment for him. He is such a talent. The days that I've, you know, like been out and haven't been able to watch the game, it's just, it's nice to have a familiar voice. And, you know, during this time when we've transitioned to ESPN Plus and TNT, like, I try to open my heart up to these other announcers and things like that. And for the most part, you know, there are a couple of good ones. But at the end of the day, it's always nice to hear the familiar voices, the ones that give you that little bit of extra
Homerism.
like familiarity. Like I feel sometimes, you know, like we've talked about it here on the pod, here and there. I mean, with the Sharks not being really good this year, there's a lot of chatter about the Sharks, and we get really like, yeah, they're gonna be bad, but there's a difference between knowing that they're bad and understanding why they're bad, and knowing they're bad and then just talking about them being bad. It's like, I'd rather hear someone talk about them being bad, but with purpose and recognition that this is all part of the process. And so when you hear an announcer who's just going on and the only time they've actually like looked at the Sharks is in this moment, it's like, I don't want to listen to you.
You don't know what's going on here.
You don't even know.
They're just like, oh, the Sharks, they're so embarrassing, blah, 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 you know.
Like, how are they this bad? Look like, and it's like, welcome.
They look like minor leaguers playing out there. Listen.
First time?
Right. Listen, we as Sharks fans are suffering enough. We don't need that commentary. Leave us alone. Back to Dan though. I don't listen to the radio broadcast too often, but when I do, I always find it entertaining hearing him because he has such an old-timey voice. Like, if we were living in the 1940s, I imagine his voice on the radio type thing, you know? That's what I imagine.
I love commentators like that though, like especially the radio guys that have like that really like radio, like it's just like throwback radio voice. It's like, I don't know, it creates like this different kind of atmosphere around the game. That it's like a little bit of nostalgia in the current moment, because you're like, man, if this was like you said, like the 1940s, 1950s, this would be like a pop in time on sports radio. I love that. I love that sort of feel.
And other inductees that got welcomed into the Hall of Fame this past week are Turgeon, Henrik Lundqvist, Mike Vernon, Tom Barrasso, Caroline Ouellette, Ken Hitchcock, and Pierre Lacroix.
LaCroix?
Lacroix.
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 Is that right?
Like the drink.
I looked up a pronunciation this morning, and then I was like, as soon as we got to the statement, I was like, crap, I forgot it. So thank you. So first off, yay for the gays, Caroline Ouellette.
Yay! Today's gonna be in the gay episode.
And then of course, the person I was most excited to see go into the Hall of Fame, Henrik Lundqvist.
So deserving.
Generational hockey player. I saw I guess Mika Zibanejad was asked about him. I mean, he's played on like Team Sweden with him, like just the amount of success that Lundqvist had in his career. Granted, he wasn't able to get like the ultimate prize of the Stanley Cup, but he's such an icon and inspiration for others like back home, especially for folks like Mika Zibanejad and I think it was Jesper. I'm gonna get his name wrong. Yeah, Jesper Wallstedt of the Minnesota Wild. He was pretty much when he was coming up into the league, everyone was saying he's going to be the next Henrik Lundqvist, like all this stuff. But like someone asked Mika about, to give a couple of words about him, and he said, but like if you ask kids back home these days, most kids will say like, oh yeah, you played with the shampoo guy. Because he's done so many commercials with like Head and Shoulders that like, yeah, I guess some kids, I don't know, maybe kids that just don't really follow hockey, but they see him everywhere. He's like, yeah, the shampoo guy, of course. So I just thought that was like kind of funny.
The Pantene Pro. I want to shout out Mike Vernon for his Hall of Fame induction, because he is actually the father of Jacksonville Iceman goaltender Matt Vernon. So I think that's pretty cool. Vernon's had some pretty good numbers in net for the Iceman this year, so to see his dad get the nod in the Hockey Hall of Fame is pretty cool, especially for his first year in Jacksonville with us.
Nice.
It all ties in.
Right? It's the perfect...
nepism. No, just kidding.
Yes, I went nepotism, and I was going to be like hockey inception.
His dad comes out, plays for him. You're like, wait a second. That's not him.
That doesn't look like a 20-year-old hip movement.
Okay, now let's get to some of the fun stuff. This week was a milestone in Sharks world over here. The Sharks finally got their first win of the season.
Yes, we can.
What a wild ride. I don't even remember who they were playing against. That's how my week's been going.
Just completely insignificant guy named Connor McDavid.
No. That was on Thursday.
We got our first win against the Flyers, so...
The Flyers, yes.
Which I was like, okay, like... Our very own friend Ariel tweeted out that the Sharks were going to get their first win against the Flyers. This was coming off of like our back-to-back losses, 10 to whatever against whoever teams, one of them being the Canucks. So, like we knew that they were going to be bad, but losing to basically like beer league like scoring is kind of
Oof.
like, wow, something is not right. And as we talked about previously, last week, everyone was just like, where do I shift my blame? What needs to be done? No, Quinn didn't get let go. Not saying that might not pop up again, but
Yeah. I never felt
um,
like that would have been the right move after those losses. Like he hasn't. I don't know. Like we still need to give him a chance to do something. I feel like it's too early.
Right.
I get that.
Yeah, as I mentioned last episode, I mean the roster has changed so significantly from last season to even this season. There's so much on the roster being changed, and yeah, it's not great to come in and lose 10 straight, and then the last two before we finally get a win are like really, really bad. Like it doesn't look good. But the day after those 10 to whatever losses, Greer did come down and lay down the law to everybody. They said it was specifically a one-way conversation, so there was no discussion to be had. That was Greer basically telling people, look,
get your shit together.
Shit together, or something's gonna happen. And so maybe that message was heard. I mean, obviously last night we went up against last night or whatever it was, we went up against like the Knights. Well, I wasn't, it's nice to feel like we might be going on like a winning streak, but I was just like, like
just came to a screeching halt.
There was so much talk like after you guys beat the Flyers, and then everybody was like, okay, like everybody in Canucks land, we were all really like, if you guys got a win, we really wanted you guys to beat Edmonton, just because like the Alberta teams are in the basement and the Canucks are at the top of the standings. And you guys got the Flyers, and then like you turn around, you beat Edmonton, and then everybody all of a sudden is like, don't let the Sharks get hot. And it's like, listen, stranger things have happened.
No worries. That was like, never an issue.
I'm like, that's a little too like optimistic in the future, I think. Like it's but hey, if you guys got hot and went on a tear, I'd be like, well, that's hockey,
That's hockey. I think it was funny how everyone was a Sharks fan Thursday night. Everyone was rooting for the Sharks to beat the Oilers, and I was for it. I was like, yes, come to the Sharks side.
I think it was like Steve Dangle that was like, what are we all doing watching this? Like, shouldn't we feel bad about ourselves? Like, no.
Listen, the game wasn't as bad as it could have been. Like, they both put up a decent fight. Right?
I think that's the power of manifestation. I mean, I don't think anybody, maybe besides Oiler Nation, really tuned into that game wanting a certain orange and blue team to win. I think we were all wanting the impossible to happen.
So I had a little bit of worry towards like the last handful of minutes where I was just like, it would be very Sharks to blow this. Like,
right.
Very on par with the Sharks to just like give up some, because we were up by like 2, right? I think.
Yeah, it was like 3-1.
Yeah, but I mean, thankfully they hung on. I mean, the Oilers didn't look very good, to be honest. Like, McDavid looked human, so that's not good for them. And then that was human. The first game.
What does he look like normally?
A horse.
Superhuman. Like, he looks like a from out of this planet.
I suspect he's playing injured or something right now, because he's not playing like McDavid.
Yeah,
he's very slow. He looks like a Pavelski out there.
Like everybody on the ice, and done one of his classic like just part the
Moses.
Yeah, basically. And he didn't. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's definitely something wrong with David. He's just like another guy on the ice.
Yeah, but for us, how exciting was it to watch Eklund strip the puck from him and have a decent scoring chance? Very nice. Loved it.
He's been playing so well, that entire top line, and for a brief moment until like it looks like Duclair is also going to be out again this game, sick or something. Like those two lines were were rolling. Like I mean, Duclair is definitely trying to take a leadership approach to leading by example. He like I was like, all right, go off. Like I'm here for it. I mean, I don't think we're gonna like get very far, but this at least is exciting to kind of see, and you could see that the what was it? What was I saying? The gaze of Greer would be felt. Like every time that they would pan to him up in the press box, and he's just like,
I know,
like chewing his gum.
I forget which game it was that Zetterlund scored. Like he scored the goal of the night. It might have been on Tuesday. Like they immediately showed cut to Greer, and he's just sitting there, hella serious, chewing his gum. And it's so unimpressed. Like your team just scored, but whatever. I'm over here like, yes, they scored a goal. They're not shut out, and he's like, the contrast.
I've never been more invested in the last 3 minutes of a hockey game between two teams that are below 500 than I was that Thursday night. Like it was 3-1, and then like when the Edmonton got that second one, I was like, oh come on Sharks, like don't do this to us, we're pulling for you. So I'm happy you guys I don't want to say I don't want to boast. I don't want to bring bad juju to your team.
I would have had to.
You can't possibly bring more bad juju.
I would have had to disappear from the internet if we gave that all up, because it's like everybody was watching. I was like, this is the perfect moment for the Sharks to let everybody down.
Yeah,
that was me last night watching of course the Canucks come in Hockey Night in Canada against the Leafs in Toronto, 5-game win streak, and I had just got done saying maybe 3 hours before, I was like, we thought San Jose was a trap game, but this is the trap game for the Canucks. 5-game win streak taken on Toronto. You've already had stuff like the Eastern media is always like, well, we don't know how good Quinn Hughes is, or the Canucks are just lucky. I'm like, this is the perfect setup for them to come in and have a Canuck-like game and lose on Hockey Night in Canada after a pretty strong start, and that's what happened. That's it. So shout out to the Sharks for not letting me down.
You're welcome.
So we can't forget that the day before the Oilers-Sharks game, the Sharks made what I feel is a pretty decent trade. I like this trade. They traded Raska and a 5th-round pick in the 2026 draft to the Minnesota Wild for Kalen Addison, who, as far as I knew of him, was mostly from fantasy because he was playing power play 1 minute and somewhere in the defensive lineup. So they seem to at least have some, confidence in him quarterbacking the first power play. He didn't really seem like he was doing much else outside of that, fantasy wise. So that's all I knew when we got him. But I was like, hey, but he's on power play 1 on a team that could easily put someone else on power play 1. They're not like us where they're just anyone, someone. So I'm like, okay, this is good. And obviously he's been in a situation, he comes in for practice, and it's we're putting you on power play 1 today, and it's cool. I thought he did nothing happen on power play 1, but the little bits that I did see, I was like, okay. And then the little bits I saw with him being paired with Ferraro, he was making some passes through for go-ahead passes through the neutral zone and things like that. Things that we have not really been seeing from the Sharks this year. So I think it's good. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. He is an RFA this season, so he really has an opportunity to kind of, like, he's definitely going to be playing a much bigger role. He has the opportunity to do that on this team, and I'm rooting for him. I want him to do well.
I was going to ask about you guys, what you guys thought about that trade, because it to be honest, kind of shocked me on the Wilds portion of it.
Yeah.
And I know the Wild are sort of like kind of dealing with their own speed bumps, so that was like I was like, oh, okay, Minnesota, but I was wondering how you guys felt about that trade, because I feel like anyway the Sharks, obviously, I mean, with so many moving pieces to try to get something going in San Jose, I feel like that's a good pickup.
Yeah.
I don't know if with the state of your team, I don't know if I was like, ooh, you gave up draft picks. But if you can come in and you can like get like immediate help and it does something, like you said, like especially with that power play time and just trying to generate stuff, if it
we
works,
need it for sure.
Yeah. If it's something that can like provide some immediate relief, like why not at this point? Like Nesta said, it can't get any worse.
Like,
I mean, it could, but
if it were a draft pick this year, I would have been like, why though?
that wouldn't have been smart.
Yeah, but because it's a couple years like ahead and it's a later round pick, I'm like, yeah, makes sense, because I feel like we've just about gone through all of our defense trying to figure out, we need, like, I don't see how the coaching and the coaching staff get past just not having a productive anything on the power play.
Yeah.
And right now, we just really have not gotten to a place where it's sustainable. Like, so I felt like this was a smart move, and it was a safe one.
Right on, yeah. And
but it
like
is weird, as you said, that when I saw it was him, I was like, okay, like, I guess maybe the Wild knows something that we don't. And I mean,
the Wild, they have they've been putting together a decent sort of squad in Minnesota. They've had like their injury hiccups and stuff, but they're putting together some good pieces, I think, that fit into place over there. So if they feel like this was, they could give up this guy and it benefits kind of both teams in the long run, especially like you said, that draft pick is a couple years out. So if the Sharks get some immediate relief and then the Wild can continue to stock up on that future building to sort of bring new pieces in for where they've already shored up, it's a win-win. Like you guys said, if it would have been like next year's draft pick, I would have been like, oh, what are we doing in San Jose? Like, whoa.
Yeah. No, I thought it was a good one. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, on the game against the Oilers, I think him and Ferraro did really well together.
I thought they were pretty good together. Yeah.
They looked good when I was watching them, yeah.
I didn't watch the game against the Knights, like, at all. There wasn't much to watch. Right. I didn't want to put myself through it. I knew what the outcome was going to be. I'm surprised that the Knights didn't score 10 goals, honestly.
I mean, but didn't score 10. Do we even need to talk about your win? Like, please.
Right.
That's gonna be my
I didn't watch that game, so
teams. Like, come on, you didn't score 10? Why are you even celebrating? Why are you celebrating this win?
Did you even show up to compete tonight, bro? Like,
do you even play?
Do you even Will Snipe Sully if you're not scoring 10 in San Jose?
I will say that the Knights players weren't really celebrating after like the fourth goal.
I noticed that about the Canucks too. Like it was like big guys that we needed to really wake up and score, like Bolivier and like Hughes Suter. Like there was like, it was like, okay, we scored. Like, do we really need to Sully this right now? Like I was more proud of like Kuzmenko for checking on you guys' goalie when he got clipped. I was like, we don't need to celebrate. We know what this game is going to be. Make sure, like, good sportsmanship. That's what counts, you know.
Okay, I do need to mention that after the Oilers game, I did go on SDPN's Game Over to watch the reactions.
Please enlighten us.
It was okay. You know what? It's like how Steve Dangle, like the videos that get the most views are the ones when the Leafs lose, because he just goes off his rocker and just like blows up, and it's like sorry, it's entertaining, but also not sorry because I know like this is your life, so people are engaged. So yeah, it's win-win for you. But that was essentially kind of like what the Oilers game over was that night, where they were just ah. um I can't say that I have any perspective on like if they're overreacting or anything like that. Like obviously going into that game with the Sharks being where they were and like we're meant to suck this year, but the Oilers are not, and for them to do that and then to lose to the Sharks, yeah, it's not great. So their reactions obviously like they're reacting to the fact that like we're supposed to be good and we're not, and we lost to this team that's not good and all that stuff. So I mean I would say like they started talking like about looking forward to Celebrini, and I was like, okay, shut up, like like
What have you done with all the other overall like number one draft picks?
That's exactly one. I was like, you're not gonna get anywhere near the bottom to get him, for one, and two, when you do get your first overall draft picks, like you kind of
that's why we keep
haven't had a good
every
history
week
with them.
right, every week there's a conversation about, are we wasting McDavid's time in Edmonton? I don't think that number one overall thing works for y'all like at all. You maybe want to draft at like number 32.
What, he's got like 3 years left on his contract or something like that. Like, okay, hypothetically, let's say you get the first overall draft pick. I mean, it's not a Connor Bedard. He might come in like a year after. Like, I don't know. It just seems like super desperation at that point that you're just like, maybe we'll just look forward to that. And it's like, but you know what? They hit over like 600 views, and they even mentioned that they were just like, "Oh, you sick fucks!" Like, they just kept looking at the count going up. But it's like, hey, like I said, you guys are getting people coming in, enjoying the content. Like that's the whole reason that like you're doing the stuff that you do, right? So sorry, it's at the expense of your
misery.
Your misery, yeah. So, and I was there and I was going.
So, question: who's more miserable? Is it the kid that showed up to both Sharks games and they scored 10 goals on his first and second Sharks game, or is it Connor McDavid in Edmonton every time somebody says, "Are you tired of being in Edmonton?"
Okay, first of all, I think the kid only showed up once, and someone edited it to make it look like he was there twice.
I was like, when I seen the second picture, I was like, that poor child. I was like, he needs to stop coming to the games. It's him.
Secondly, I'm pretty sure McDavid's more miserable.
Yeah. That kid at least got to go to a hockey game.
You know that Nessa wanted to go to the Pittsburgh game?
I did, but it was so expensive.
But she wanted to go, and that would have been pretty terrible.
Yeah, I was not about to drop $100 to watch the Sharks get demolished. Those tickets were so expensive because it was Bay Area Unite night, so they were having a giveaway that was a like basketball jersey, so to make it look similar to the Warriors logo, but it was the Sharks. It was nice. I wanted it, but not for $100.
They're confusing people. We're like, we don't even play the sport anymore. Jokes on you. They're giving away basketball jerseys.
Dude, I checked the tickets for the next game on Tuesday against the Flyers. $14. Why? Why would I spend $100 to go watch that? No, thank you.
I think you made a smart choice. There's no need for that more like self-inflicted punishment. Like you already know you're going to be riding with them for all 82 games, so like just mental health is important. It matters, Nessa.
I know. I know.
Don't put yourself through that torment.
I'm not driving an hour out of my way to go watch that show. No, thank you.
It's gas and time. I can't get back.
Right. You're right. If it's like a $10 ticket, yeah, maybe, sure. Why not? Hockey is hockey.
Do you think at some
But-
point they might just give him away? Like you might just see like a Sharks rep on the sidewalk and it's just like, please come see us.
You know, we haven't got to that point yet, but we will see. We'll let you know.
I think it was, I don't remember. It must have been on Monday because that was before like the 2 wins. Because I walked into work and I think at least throughout the day, at least 3 people came over to give me their opinions of the Sharks. Like they deliberately were coming over. I like when I walk into work, I like go where we like our docking area for all of our shipments and stuff like that. And there's a coworker of mine that's like really into the Sharks and he works in that department. And so like more times than not, I'll run into him. And I saw him near the doorway and the moment we locked eyes, I wasn't even gonna go over talking about it. Like I think I had a meeting or something like that I needed to attend to. But he was like that's how he greeted me. And I was just like, I know what you're gonna talk about. I can't talk to you about it right now, but I know what's on your mind. And I get into work, and maybe like an hour later, like one of my coworkers messages me on our Teams system, and he's like, "Yeah, so my wife came home and like she has a pair of tickets to go to the Ducks game, and she's like so excited. So of course that means I have to say yes and go with her." And I was just like, it'll be fine. Like, he's like, I just hope that they like kind of inject some of the rivalry in there and make it exciting. And I was like, I'm sure it'll be fine. You'll have a good time. Your wife is happy, blah, 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 and whatever. And then I have to go walk over like an hour later to the other side of our office. And like my other coworker who's into the Sharks just like in passing just started bitching about them. It's just like I'm like not even trying to have this conversation with people. People are so mad.
We're going through it. It's hard out here.
Hey, every night, like when I pray to the hockey gods, I'm like, please just send the San Jose Sharks strength in these trying times.
We appreciate you.
I've had those shoes on my feet. They're no fun.
Give them the strength. Oh my god, you're funny. Anyways, as we were saying, we all knew the Sharks were going to be a mess. All right, putting it lightly, they were going to be a mess. The Oilers are still considered a cup contender, but they're doing so bad. And so this morning, they announced that they let their coach go. How are we feeling about that? Apparently, he had the best record in like wins losses of any coach in Oilers history.
Yeah.
See, but the Oilers are something else because now, just within McDavid's lifetime on the Oilers, this is going to be his 5th coach.
Yeah.
Like,
do you know who they hired?
Yeah.
No, I don't know him.
He was like the coach of the AHL, the Hartford Wolfpack, but he was McDavid's junior hockey coach.
And I joked this morning, like, yes, that'll fix the problem.
Right.
We just need to get someone who knows how to coach McDavid, because of course McDavid is the problem. He's the one who needs to be coached.
I feel like that's Edmonton's whole thing is like at some point in some way it always comes back to like McDavid and Draisaitl. Like you have 18, 20 other skaters on that team,
Who
right?
cares
like,
about them?
I always forget who's on that team, honestly.
I knew them, and then I knew Zach Kassian, but Kassian just retired, so I'm like, I guess
I remember Nurse because he's cousins with Sarah.
But I just, I'm a Canucks fan, so the longer Edmonton stays in the basement, the happier I am. I feel like that's just karma. But I don't know. I don't know about like, okay, we're gonna hire this guy. Like, of course he has ties to McDavid, like with his times in junior hockey, and you do you, boo. That's all I'm gonna say.
I just feel like it's a hope move. Like, I think they can start feeling that McDavid is like 1 foot out the door, and they're just like, no, but we'll bring in your bestie.
But do you remember Coach Kris? Like, he's back.
I just feel like they're like, okay, so what if like that doesn't solve the problem? What if they like, okay, they missed the playoffs this season? Like, I mean, the GM's got to go, right?
Yeah, they got to do something about their goaltending too. I mean, like I know they waived Campbell, but like Skinner's not better either. And like, I mean, unless
he's
McDavid
not ready for that role.
Yeah, I mean, unless McDavid can suit up and get in net, like I feel like that's the thing is like they put all this on poor Connor's shoulders, and it's like, bro, he's a forward. He doesn't do like he can't coach.
Yeah.
He can't
They're
run the team.
They're hoping they can clone him or something.
Right?
It's just a team of McDavids.
You just see everybody just take to the ice in a 97 jersey. They finally figured it out.
Maybe what they can do is fake it, right? So give everyone a 97 jersey, and then the opposing teams will get confused as to who to cover, leaving the real McDavid open, right?
It's a Mighty Ducks move right there.
Right. Who's that lining up for the knuckle
puck? They're gonna do the flying D into the zone. Yeah.
Flying B, but it's actually like Darnell Nurse in a 97 jersey that comes out the back of the formation. But everybody's like, oh, it is knuckle puck time, you know?
I mean, they really got to exhaust all options here.
Yeah. Something's got to change. I mean, it's crazy to see like a team that was, as a Canucks fan, everybody here was like, we won't be 10-3-1 come, November 12th. We had expectations, but not anything like this. And so it's kind of weird to be on the other side of it, especially seeing like Edmonton be a favorite and then just like not be present for anything happening. It's wild. So
what I thought was weird was that, and just from the little bit that I saw this morning, how they got like a shutout against the Kraken yesterday, and then they went peace out to Jay Woodcroft the following day, which I'm like, okay.
Like you fire him after a win?
And apparently the dude was like pretty happy that day, so it's just like, that's a little messed up.
I thought for sure when he was like ejected from like the Canucks game that would be it. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I thought that like that was like that it was over. And then for the Sharks, I mean like you get beat by a winless team, that seems like a pretty good day to be like, hey, you're out, my guy. What? Winless. You guys had a win. I can't short you on that. Okay, so a 1-win team. I just feel like that would have been like if you were looking for an opportunity to be like, we need to change the guard, doing it after you beat somebody. And like people said, I didn't watch the game last night, but people said it was a pretty like kind of classic-esque Oilers performance. And it just seems like, what are we doing? What's happening?
I mean, I guess we'll see as the season goes on if that was like a good move to make. But it just, I mean, maybe because they did it so early on, you have time to still, turn things around. It's not like they, I mean, I get that they're down in the bottom with us, but it's like 11, 12 games now into the season.
And that's the thing too, is like how long can you really wait to make that move too, right? Like, I mean, I hate to keep going back to Vancouver, but look at the mess with like Bruce Boudreau and like the changing of the guard when the new GMs and everything came in, like especially young talent, like, guys that are like Connor McDavid that have been there for a while, like they're ready to seal a legacy. And I feel like if you are wasting time, if you don't make that change too early in the season, like, are you going to be able to recover enough down the line? And that's kind of what happened to the Canucks, right? Because Taka comes in, they turn around, but they're just still like however many points out of contention. So it's kind of like I as much as I don't get it, I do get it because Edmonton wants to sort of eliminate that from happening. But I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean they're running out of time with the McDavid contract.
Yeah, they've got to figure something out.
Yeah,
I think they should trade him. Send him away.
Too. I really do. I feel like Edmonton should reap what they can get back for him. I mean, if they want the first overall pick again, then like sell your boy off. Like go ahead and bring in another first overall if that's what you really want. Tell me how that strategy works for you again. Like it's
Ruin another first overall.
Right.
Start the cycle all over again.
All over again. Rinse, wash, repeat.
What is the meaning of insanity?
Yep.
Doing the same thing over. What is it?
Doing the same thing over again, expected different results.
Yeah, that exactly.
They're like, this hasn't worked for the past decade. Let's try it again.
Maybe this time.
It's different in the 2020s. Damn it.
The kids are different.
The kids are different.
So last night, I didn't watch any of the Canucks and the Leafs game, but the game over Leafs with the Canucks crossover came up on my feed last night, and I would otherwise be like, okay, well, I don't really care because I didn't watch it or whatever. But they had a special guest, and it was Eddie Lack. And I went,
Eddie
shut
Lack.
up! I'm like, I'm gonna watch that. How cool! And so he was only on there for like the first half. So if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it because he's a trip. He's a lot of fun. He shared just like some general memories from his time with the Canucks. Like one of the things that comes to mind was I don't remember what the context was, but it was brought up that Eddie's never been in a fight during his career, and he said that he almost did, but with Jonathan Quick.
Yeah.
And he, I mean, they didn't end up doing anything, but he did say that it's probably a good thing because he feels like he's probably a nicer guy than Quick, so he probably would have gotten his ass handed to him.
I love Eddie Lack, man.
Yeah.
He's a legend. I really wish he would have. I remember when Lack came in and then really like stole the show a few times in that for the Canucks, and all of us I think wanted him to stick around and
yeah,
sort of come into his own. But he's always all over my Twitter now selling houses. He's like a real estate agent.
It's so weird.
I'm like, I'd buy a house from the Lack attack. Like,
it's so funny. Yeah, like I didn't really follow too much of the Canucks, but the players that I did know were mostly like the goaltenders, and Eddie just having that personality, and he even mentioned it during their during that recording that when he came into the league, I guess he had like an account on Twitter and people started following him and like tweeting at him, and he felt like, I need to reply because people are tweeting at me and they're asking me things, and I'm like, oh, you're so adorable. And
he's a gem, man.
Yeah, and so I think it got to a point where like he was finally playing at the NHL level, and he kind of felt like he wasn't really sure how to handle all of the everybody being excited and wanting to meet him and like all this stuff. And he mentioned that the Sedin twins gave him some advice that they're like, at some point people are going to stop caring about you. You're going to get to a point in your career, you retire, and people are just like, Eddie who? Like, so just kind of, lean into it. Like, and so that's kind of like, he said he took it to heart, and he would always stop and give autographs, take photos, like engage with folks and things like that. And I mean, really, that's like kind of what stuck out to me during his time with the Canucks. And him being a goaltender, him being Swedish, I was just like, he checks all the boxes for me.
All the I mean, and like Swedish is like almost a requirement for like the Canucks roster at some points, especially if you like really look at the history of the team. But yeah, and the great thing too, like to double down on that, like he's still I'll go like days sometimes without seeing anything from Eddie on Twitter, and then like randomly during the middle of a Canucks game he jumps in and he's like, "What are we doing, Canucks fans? Like, how are we feeling?" He's always like, he still interacts with the fan base. He's still like a trusted like voice, like opinion, like Canucks fans sort of seek out like what Eddie's takes are. So I think he's great. I would have loved to see him hang around in Vancouver longer, but I'm happy that he still is a part of our fan base, part of our little Canucks family. I love it. Eddie Lack is the man. I remember like his first like win and his big like celly in net when he was coming out, and I was like, yes, Eddie, yes, you did that. I love a goalie. I can't ever disrespect a goaltender. They have an insane job.
Yeah, he did mention that playing for the Canucks was like his favorite franchise, and the host that was for the Vancouver side, it was just so awesome to kind of like that was his like obviously he followed Eddie's time with the Canucks, but that was his first time on the on their on Game Over to meet him, and he was just like ear to ear, just like smiling, so excited. And he was even apologizing to the other host. He's like, "I've got another Canucks question. I'm sorry. Do you mind?" And everything. It's just like that guy was like, "No, go right ahead." It was just really fun that he agreed to go on to that show and just give a little bit of his time and is still actively following the franchise and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of mention that because I enjoyed watching that.
His
That segment.
personality is like great. You know, it's such a it's in recent years when it has been so good. Eddie's commentary has been a bright spot and a welcome sort of like positive, look on things. So, uh, that's I'm gonna have to catch. I'm gonna have to check out the Game Over piece. I didn't. I watched the game last night and was like so bitter at the because not only did the Canucks lose 5-2, so did the Icemen last night. So I was like, that's it. No more hockey. Hockey Gods had it out for me last night. I'm not. I was like, I'm disengaging. I'm turning on YouTube, and I I colored. I think or painted. I don't know. I was in a fever dream after both of my teams lost. I was like, I hate this sport.
And yet here you are, sporting your team's gear.
Yeah, it's like I always say my relationship with hockey, especially the Canucks, is very love hate. Like I love to hate them and I hate to love them. But they could go 0 for 82, and I would love them just as much as if they were 82-0. So I'm in it to win it, in it to lose it. Don't matter.
All right, we got any more things we want to get off our chests, or we feel like we've concluded
The Canucks might have lost
this
5 to
week?
2 last night in Toronto against the Maple Leafs, but Elias Pettersson is still your NHL points leader. Thank you. I'm done.
only because Jack Hughes is injured.
Oh, we could talk about that. How's everyone's fantasy been going? How is everyone's fantasy?
I'm neck and neck with Naj this week. Wait, let me check right now because we've been like all week by 1 point, and right now I think they're ahead. Yeah. Oh no, we're tied. We're 5-5.
I haven't checked many of my scores today. I know that you can't tank for draft picks in fantasy, but I am trying really hard.
You're trying to what? I'm sorry?
You can't tank for draft picks in fantasy, but I am making a valiant effort at that.
Well, maybe not in the league that you're in. I don't know. There's like a plethora of other like varieties that you can set up a league. I know there's like a keeper league or like a dynasty league, which I don't think I'm ready for because that's too
No.
that requires far more like involvement in the sport that I don't know if I can handle that level of dedication to fantasy. But yeah, like at one point I think I had like 4 guys injured. Oh, funny story. Um in the league for Over the Glass, I have Tristan Jari, and a friend of mine in the other league that I play in, he has Tristan Jari. And I think one of the nights, all of my goaltenders were playing, and
Oh.
for whatever reason, I said, you know what, I don't trust Jari to go against whatever team it was, and I played my other goaltenders. They both won, but the thing was, I was like, you better not get that shutout, Jari. You're gonna like I got you on my bench. You're like you better not like make me regret not playing you because then I'm not gonna get the shutout. And so I kept texting my friend. I was like, it would be a shame if the Penguins didn't get a and he finished it with just basically like shut up. and and then I kept trying like to text him other ways to like hint at it. And then I think the third time I took a look at my stats, Jari was hurt. I was like, oh crap, I tried too hard.
Nice, Jay.
And then I texted him and I was like, oops. And then he was like, are you kidding me? He's like, he's probably gonna get the win, but he's not good. I'm not gonna get the shutout point. And he didn't get the shutout point.
I have
But then I was
Shesterkin
like-
in that he's injured, so I've been like up a shit streak with my goaltending because like half of my every time like I got Campbell and Campbell was like kind of like on a little heater, like he was just good for points, so I brought him in, and then like that went disastrously wrong, and now Shesterkin's hurt, and I'm like, listen, you could just score on my fantasy team. We're not going to play that position. It doesn't matter. I made an effort to put somebody in net, and it didn't work out. So
you should ask Elena how her goaltending experience has been. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to laugh at her, but like Samsonov won and she dropped him like that day or like the day before, and I was just like, Elena's gonna wake up and just not have a good day. She's
been struggling because she lives in Germany, so there's a whole time difference thing for her. So she's like, it's hard for her to check who's going to be starting, especially because apparently the Stars don't like to announce it until like half an hour before game starts. And she's asleep by then, so she has the hope that either they're playing or they're not, depending if she put them in or not.
I can imagine because like I forget to set my lineup like half the time, and I'm like, I'm in the States. I'll forget that like I have a fantasy team until like 8:30 at night, and then everybody that's got points is like sitting on my bench.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh, the worst feeling is like you're debating who to put in on the bench and who to play, and then you decide, and then the game starts, and the person you put in does absolutely nothing, and the person sitting on the bench has a really decent game, and it's like, why?
That's why I say I'm trying to tank for draft picks, because like that's been my fantasy season. I'm like, I was so certain a couple times. I'm like, no, like they're playing, you know, like this team's got to a slow start. It'll be fine. And then I like make what I thought was a smart decision, only to look at the points at the end of the night and be like, wow,
Yep.
what a disaster.
Yep. Like freaking Makar hasn't been playing up to his skills lately, which has been very frustrating.
What is going on with the Avs?
I don't know.
What's going on with them?
I haven't watched any of their games in a while, but yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, the couple of Av games that I've watched, I'm like, what is Colorado doing? Because they're not Colorado. They don't look the same out there. It's like
right. They look like the Eagles. No. And then our leading goal scorer is currently injured, so we're like trying to rely on all our other guys who haven't been producing as much, but I don't know. This week has been really frustrating for us.
My fantasy hockey fantasy is just to win 1 week.
So you've got the Sharks at the fantasy world?
Oh yeah. I haven't even looked at like how bad I'm down today. I had a pretty good neck and neck going, and then like last night or yesterday I looked at it and I was down by like 23 points again. I was like, cool. I might not ever win a game, but in my heart I've won the league because I have Quinn Hughes and he puts up enough points every night to make me feel like I am, I'm competing a little bit.
Are we voting for Quinn Hughes for the Norris this year?
Yes.
What are we doing?
Duh.
Awesome. I mean, do you legit think like he would be a contender for it?
I really do.
Okay.
And Demko was a little off last night. Like, it was one of the first performances, I think, of the season that Demko hasn't been up to his best. But Demko's got like a 1.96 goals against average right now. He's got 2 shutouts through the first 14 games of the season. Like, I think Pettersson's got 25 points in 14 games. I think there's a lot of potential like trophy winners here on the Canucks. If they can keep it up and keep finding ways to bounce back after some of these more ugly games, I think like Demko for Vezina, Quinn for Norris, and PD for Hart, I don't think that's completely out of the question. I think there's a few people out there that like to still say the Canucks are lucky, but this is for somebody that's been following the team and went through like the travesty of the last couple seasons. It's the same group, but it's a different level of accountability. It's a different level of ethic, like work ethic that these guys are showing up with this year. Like Tocchet was saying after the Ottawa game, PD had a terrible game. It wasn't a good game for PD in Ottawa, even if the team won 5-2. And PD came and got Tocchet out of the office and was like, "Hey, I had a bad game. I'm sorry. I'm going to work on it." So it's different, different sort of like locker room vibe. That's in the Canucks culture this season, and I'm waiting to see, of course, like how they come out and they play against Montreal tonight. But they've done incredibly well at being able to bounce back and change those minor errors and correct those miscues as they continue to go on. And if it comes, it won't be a shock to me. I feel like it'll be a shock to the rest of the hockey world who still says that we're just lucky. But I think people should take notice. Those are good numbers, right? Like 2 shutouts in 14 games, 1.96 goals against average, 7 wins. He's tied for first in the league. Demko is with 7 wins in net. Like, listen, it's put some respect on our name. You know what I'm saying? It's time to respect and recognize that the Canucks are playing big boy hockey. Put some respect on our name. You're gonna sleep on us, and then we're gonna wipe the slate clean with all of the trophies come NHL World Season. But I think Quinn cracks at this rate. I mean, he's the first defenseman with like 20 points through the first like 12 games of the season since Bobby Orr did it in 1973. I don't think it's out of the question he takes the Norris.
And when he wins the Norris,
I will die of a heart
play
attack.
that video with him doing the Backstreet Boys lip sync with some of his other teammates.
When he was in Michigan.
It's just so bad. He's so just like emotionless on his face.
Man, that little promo video they did for like the beginning of the season where it was like the Canucks have to like take over like evil AI opponents.
Oh my god, that absolutely made no sense. Yeah,
I was so certain they were gonna come up out of them tubes with like the Backstreet Boys choreography, just like everybody, like I was waiting for it. I was like, oh my god, Canucks are back, all right,
yeah, the VFX and stuff was cool or whatever. Makes sense. They have a lot of studios up in Vancouver. The writing, however, was not it. Like, it was really hard to follow what the heck they were trying to portray there. I don't understand.
I was so certain that we were gonna get some like top of the line like gold content choreography. I feel kind of let down that we didn't.
Speaking of all those trophies and things, I think when Jack Hughes comes back, if he can pick up the pace, and keep up with Pettersson or whatever, whether Pettersson can get it or not, I think it'd be cool if Jack also contended. Like, and then people are rooting for Jack Hughes to get, what was it? Oh my god, I forgot the name of the trophies.
The Hart?
Yes, thank you. The Hart.
Yeah.
If he can get the Hart, Quinn gets the Norris, and then Luke Hughes can get the Calder. That would be cute too.
That would be dope. Like I'm down to see the Hughes brothers take a clean sweep. I would almost be happier with like Luke getting the Calder, Petey with his defensive play being a little bit better this year, like Petey for Selke, and then Quinn for Norris and Jack for Hart. I think that'd be pretty awesome. Like the Hughes brothers have been dominating the league. It sucks that Jack's hurt. Like I want him to get back.
I know.
Up. I am really devastated. I'm like, man, like the Hughes brothers were killing it, and now Jack's out. Like, awful timing. But I'd like to see them take a clean sweep. That'd be pretty damn cool, honestly.
I think that'd be great for the sport.
Yeah, I do too. Like the Hughes, they got that dog in them, all of them, little dogs.
You mentioning all of the Hughes brothers just reminded me of that tweet where everybody's like comparing how many goals they've scored to the total that the Sharks have scored. And I'm like, I know, it's hilarious, right? But then also, like, as they should have more goals than us. They're the freaking Hughes brothers. Like,
right,
duh.
right.
Like, this isn't a win, okay?
You're not dunking on anybody.
This
here.
is not a dunk.
It's just
Joke's on you, we know.
That's just what they
low hanging
do.
fruit.
I know, for sure. I was like,
And then everyone's making the same joke all the time, and it's like, get some new material. Like, I'm over it. Maybe it was a little funny the first time. Maybe you can't. The 10th time, yeah, paso. It's over. Like,
yeah, I get that.
It's old.
Like, we've already discussed that the Sharks aren't scoring. Do we have to bring it up every single game? Somebody scores like 5 goals, and they're like, "That's the most that the Sharks have ever given up in like 30 minutes time or less." And it's like, whoa.
Get over it.
Nobody asked for that stat, my man.
I just want to say before we close out, because I do want to get a win here since the Sharks aren't. The Niners won 34-3 against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh. That's even. You know what's really sad about that is like the Jags had a bye week. Like what it.
So did we. So did the Niners.
Yeah, hey, the
My
Mines are still on the
play
beach.
in the defense was Bosa and the new guy Young coming
yeah.
in, and they were just like
locked in on
coming to get you, Disney Prince.
Can your
You stole
Pantene
both
Pro
our
hair save you?
hearts.
This is the
Sorry.
sequel.
You can be happy about your Canucks, but I want to be happy about my Niners.
That's fair. That's fair. I will say that my relationship with the Jags is like when they're good, I'm like, oh, the Jags won. So like when they lose, like you tell me that they lost, I'm like, that's about right. That's about right.
Yeah, that's pretty much how we feel over here. Like, oh, they lost. Well,
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Just add it to the list pile.
Jags
Like,
fans
oh,
are so
please
brutal
let me
too.
know when they win. Like, it's not news.
It was like halfway through the first quarter, and like the Jags fans online were vicious. They were like, "This team sucks." I'm like, man,
That reminds me, Leon Draisaitl after it must have been the loss against the Sharks, and some reporter asked him about like people like not like the
Getting
lack
going.
of production or people like not showing up, and
Great observation.
yeah, like Leon is just like peak pissy.
that guy, I can't blame him. Like if you're sitting there and you know like we're having a bad year, like and you're like, oh, things aren't working out, like, well, yeah, no shit, and the sky is blue. Anything else you'd like to add? It's an astute observation.
Okay, so I'm gonna close out with this. After I saw that, and then after I saw that, like even the coach was asked if he feels like his job is in jeopardy, job security, blah blah blah. And okay, fine. As a writer, as a journalist, like sure, I guess you have to ask that question. I kind of have mixed feelings about it because, like, what are you expecting them to say? And I told one of my friends, I texted one of my friends, like, has a coach ever been like, yeah, I'm actually terrified. Thanks for asking. Like, have they ever given, like, an answer that isn't just, like, the most professional way that Jay Woodcroft went about it? Like,
I get that too, because like
yeah,
as a journalist, like you have to ask those questions. But like it's like again, like with the Leon thing, it's like what are you expecting in that moment? Like you're not asking a hard hitting like gonna get a big scoop sort of question. Like these guys are pissed off, they're not playing right. Like you still have to sort of be professional, but like you can't. I don't know. I feel like maybe to some extent those questions aren't necessary. Like especially if you know like what you're probably going to end up getting in response. Like things are bad. Don't ask bad questions in bad moments.
All right. That's it for us this week. As always, I'm your host, Jay.
Co-host Nessa.
And co-host Drew.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.